In about 20 minutes, this pan will be full of chicken, a whole chicken. It'll be going in the oven to roast for about 90 minutes. It's part of what we're going to have for dinner tonight. No, that's not how you bake a chicken. You're going to take out of the package first. I'm going to weigh it too so I know how many pounds it is. That'll give me an idea about how long it needs to stay in the oven. Just short of 6 pounds. That means it's going to take about something like 110 minutes or so. Good thing I'm starting now. I have some avocado oil and salt. I'm going to go ahead and rub the chicken with some avocado oil and then give a light sprinkling of salt. The avocado oil helps to crisp up the chicken skin, and the salt draws moisture out of the skin as well, so you get a really crispy skin. Now it's time to put it in the oven. I have the oven at 450 degrees and I'll immediately turn that down to 350. Chicken just went in the oven. The temperature is at 450 and I immediately turned it down to 350. So now we're just waiting for the temperature to drop down to 350 and keep cycling. Now there's a couple of different ways of looking at baking chicken. Is pretty easy. It's put it in the warmed up oven, let it cook, pull it out when it's done. But it's like a lot of other things in cooking. You have to check it at the end to see if it's ready. Now there's a couple of different ways that people go about trying to cook chicken, in the oven at least. One is to do what I'm doing, which is have high heat to start with and drop the temperature down. The other is to cook the bird at, let's say, something like 325 instead of 350. The idea being that the bird will not shrink as much when you cook it slower. Well, all the results that I've seen from experiments is that, no, that doesn't really help. So you don't really gain anything by cooking chicken at a lower temperature. Now, when you look at tough beef and other kinds of meats, yeah, it makes a difference. But then you have to be looking at cooking it low and slow, and that's frequently being braised. That means you have some liquid in the pan to provide more moisture during the cooking process. Well, it's going to be another hour and 3/4, 2 hours before that chicken's ready. In the meantime, I'll be fixing some other things to go with dinner. I'm steaming some rice using a small rice cooker. I'm planning to use that for the starch for dinner tonight, and then I'm planning to make some rice pudding. Well, in addition to making some rice pudding, I'm going to make some bread pudding too. But there's only one problem. The bread that I had for making the rice pudding has gone stale. So I'm going to look it over and make sure there's no mold or anything else going on it. And as long as there's no mold, I'm going to go ahead and reconstitute this. And I'll bring you along for that little bit. It's pretty easy. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort. What I use is a clean linen cloth. This is a cloth that's used typically in the food service industry, a lot in kitchens. And what I'll be doing is putting that into this steamer. It's pretty easy, and I should be able to cube that bread up when it's steamed up so it's reasonably soft. I have half a cup of cream and 3 eggs in here, 3 whole eggs. I'm just going to whisk this together until it's pretty homogenized. I'll be adding 2 more cups of half and half. Normally I'd use half whipping cream and half milk, but half and half will work just fine. I'll add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of vanilla, and then I'll be adding 1/3 of a cup of sugar. Now the nice thing about this particular custard mixture is that it works both for rice pudding and bread pudding. I'll probably put some raisins in the rice pudding. And the water is just starting to steam. I need for it to actually really start to steam nice. The chicken's ready to come out. I'm going to let it sit for 15 or 20 minutes. It'll be time for the lunar eclipse to start, at least the very beginning of it. So we'll see if we see that tonight as well. Eggs, vanilla, salt, and the half and half are all in the measuring cup. I'm going to dump the 1/3 of a cup of sugar in. Now mix that up. I'm going to set this on the back of the range. It's warm. I'm not going to let it sit for very long, but I do need to let it sit. I have 2 relatively large pieces of French bread that has gone stale. I'm just going to wrap this up in this piece of linen towel and put it into my steam basket. The water's boiling quite vigorously. Just put the top on. I'm going to let that steam for a few minutes. My rice just finished, so it's time to get that portion of dinner going. The chicken looks great. There is some fat in the bottom. I'll be using that to make some gravy. In the meantime, I'm going to start serving up some dinner for Irene. That'll be rice with gravy and some select parts of the chicken. The steamer is busy steaming that stale bread. I'm going to pull the top off and see if it's about ready. It's hot. You know, when I was a kid, there was a hot dog shop in town, small town, a hot dog shop, and the owner of that hot dog trailer would go pick up day-old hot dog buns and hot dog stuffing mistakes. So those were bought at a steep discount. That meant that we could buy a hot dog really cheap. And the entire family could eat for really cheap. Let's see if this is done enough. Not quite. I want it to get a little softer, but it's doing pretty good. You can see there that it gives pretty well. You know, I think I'm going to stop right there. I'll be assembling this bread pudding after we eat dinner. 2/3 of dinner ready for Irene. Some crispy chicken skin, 2 chicken wings, and some breast meat. Oh, there's rice as well. Green beans will come later. In the meantime, let's look to see what our gravy stock is going to look like. Ooh, that looks really good. And while we're at it, let's take a quick look. Oh, my bread's still steaming in the steamer. It's on really low. I want to get more permeation through the bread so that it softens a bit more. Time to eat. Well, I've sliced up the bread that was really too hard to do anything with, and it's relatively soft. as you can see. I'm going to go ahead and divide this up into cubes. I'll be putting it into the ramekins, and I'll be putting it into a water bath that goes in the oven at 350 for an hour. And I think I'm going to go ahead and make some rice pudding at the same time. I have several dishes ready to be custarded. So I'll be pouring custard into all 4 of those dishes. Hopefully I have enough custard to fill them all up. Time to add the custard. Need to make some more. Puddings are in the oven. It's going to take about an hour for them to bake. It takes a little while for them to cool down, so we probably won't eat them tonight. Or maybe we might. In any case, looks like they'll be delicious. Bread pudding, no raisins. Bread pudding with no raisins. Rice pudding with raisins. Bread pudding with raisins. Just came out of the oven. It's too hot to eat right now. Maybe we'll try some in a little bit. But we already had ice cream and berries from our berry patches. Yum. Raisins were really dried out, but they plumped up really nicely. And boy, that tastes good.